Hi everyone, Ryan again. So I want to walk you through our partnership presentation, help you familiarize yourself with our loan brokers, how they fit into your team. Um, the partnership works as long as we are part of the team, as long as we're included in the process, especially when you're outsourcing responsibilities to other members of your team, marketing and outreach, for instance, right? We need to be on the same page. Otherwise, breaks in the chain, submitting data that's not properly qualified, it's not going to convert, is the bottom line. So it's very important. So anyway, let's dig in. Let's discuss a little bit, okay? So how do we fit into your team? Well, of course, you have your acquisition specialist, your dispositions, office assistant, marketing director, selling specialist, processor, but we're the missing piece, okay? Because we're all those people help you monetize your one revenue stream, right? We're going to help you put together money in other ways, okay? But we rely on one another. We need to work together is the bottom line. We need to be part of that team so we can be effective and efficient, especially with our experienced wholesalers. Right? Because it's likely you have a team. And so if we're not on the same page, I think you see where I'm going with this. Very important, very important. So think of us as another member of the team is the point, right? And so we can work with your existing team. If you're busy, if you don't want to deal with us, have your team member go through the material, right? Understand how to properly qualify is the bottom line here, right? Our job is to fund your qualified borrowers. We'll handle loan brokering while you focus on your role, right? Whatever it is, any given team member or even you as the wholesaler, okay? Our goal is to monetize all of your investor relationships, not just the winning bidder, not just the bidders on your properties, any investor you talk to in your network. So make sure your people who are handling outreach have our model in mind, right? Very important. So that right from the beginning, we are setting ourselves up for conversion. We are monetizing our time, right? Our outreach. We can work with these investors and get them funded, regardless if they're bidding on your property or not. So keep that in mind, okay? And the bottom line here is working with your team expedites results. It does, right? So if we're on another page, if we're separate from what's going on, if your people are handling outreach and talking to investors every day and they're not including us or at least our strategy in that process, you're leaving money on the table, right? So anyway, process is key to our results. This is very important, this slide. It all starts with qualification. You've heard me say this before by now, right? You're already qualifying these buyers for the purchase of the property, okay? Why not qualify them for funding too? You're not always dealing with the cash buyer. You're rarely really dealing with the cash buyer. And the buyer is going to get funding for the purchase and for the rehab. So you should be getting a piece of that action, right? We can do that for you. And our broker can handle that side of it for you, but it starts with qualification. If you bring us bad deals, bad data, bad borrowers, they can't be funded. They're not a buyer for your deal, for your wholesale deal. They're not fundable either, right? So it doesn't work across the board. So it all starts with qualification. The three things you really want to focus on is, does the investor have experience? Does the investor have enough cash to bring to the table? And does the investor have a property lined up? These are the three, essential questions you need to have in every conversation you have with every investor, and as soon as possible. Because if they don't answer correctly, you need to move on from the conversation. Your outreach people need to move on from that conversation, because it's not going to work for you. They're not going to be a buyer, and we're not going to be able to fund them. So it just doesn't make sense, right? And I'm telling you something you already know, but it's even more important here as you're thinking about working with different investors and getting them funded. We need to make sure that it's a real opportunity. Okay, so lenders want to see experience, very important. That the first-time buyers, sometimes they can convert, but likely they have a lot of questions. There's problems. They want to haggle over rates without any leverage at all. They're not going to get the same rate as the experienced buyer, so it can be difficult. So something to think about. Does the investor have cash? They need to bring roughly 30% to the table for the purchase. The rehab, okay? Usually the lender will cover 100% of the rehab, but the purchase, they're going to need like 30% of the cash. If they don't have cash, next, right? Next. And any experienced investor knows this, right? And your cash buyers, you're not always going to be dealing with a cash buyer. Really, cash buyers, they're putting all their eggs in one basket. Why not just spread your cash out into multiple properties, do multiple deals at once, right? Put 30% down, have the rest come from a lender. You can just do more business, make more money. It just makes more sense. So this is the majority of the time you're going to be dealing with this. You need to understand these things, right? Does the investor have a property lined up? Very important. If they're not bidding on your property, they're bidding on somebody else's property. If they didn't win it out, if they don't have a property ready to go, we can't fund them. We're not going to issue a line of credit to them. And even if we get to that point, the lender is going to decline them when they realize they don't have a property to spend the line on. No lender wants to have a line of credit that's sitting idle. So they have to have a property. But if you check these boxes, we have a good borrower for the most part. Now you want to see the qualification module in the Ion Success tool that dives a little bit deeper. But generally, this is what your focus needs to be during the outreach process before you send over your marketing email or whatever, or we get them to fill out the application form. Deal quality is another essential piece. Okay, approval for funding doesn't just depend on the borrower, but the property as well. Familiarize yourself with what the lender restrictions look like so you don't commit to a bad property. This is very important. If you have an investor who's looking at a mobile home park or a property that's extremely rural, right? It's not a good deal. We don't know that we're going to be able to get them funded. Understand what lenders probably don't want to see. If the investor's going on and on about an ARV that doesn't match up well with the surrounding area and the prices of the homes in the area, it's not a good deal. You know what I mean? We need to be able to eye out and identify these things ahead of time. You do that for your property, right? For your deal. Think about it the same way when you're dealing with an investor who's looking at an entirely different property. It's got to be a good investor and a good property to get the deal funded, right? You know these things. This is what you're doing all day, every day anyway, right? Make sure that we have good data. You bring in that good data. You hand off to your partner broker, you check that box, and this is where we'll be able to take over. You can go back to business as usual, and we'll be able to cut you that check when we get the investor funded. So very important, very, very important. Your process is key to our results, okay? The partnership, it just works. It just makes sense. It really is a great fit, the wholesaler and broker, when you really stop and think about it. It's a beautiful thing because this is going on around your deal anyway. You just haven't been involved in it up until now, right? You have your individual brokers reaching out to investors, asking them if they need funding, right? It's a separate conversation, and there's a transaction happening, and then there's your transaction, and it's all separate. Heck, even if you get transactional funding for yourself, right? You can get a kickback. You can get cash back for that. What if the client needs credit repair? Why don't you just get set up a credit repair and have a referral link? It's super easy. You don't need us for that. That's just one more way you can make money. When you put all of these things together and you offer this to all the investors you talk to, you start to just get revenue streams from every direction, money coming from every direction, and you're not taking on more properties. You're not taking on more responsibility. You're just changing the way you talk to investors. Your people are talking to investors, and you're leveraging Ion and our partnership and our national lender network and our setup and our ability. It's a great thing. It fits. It works. And when you have a real wholesaler, a real broker, a real lender, and a real investor, you make money, right? You should be participating in these streams, okay, is the bottom line. So a team effort towards positive results is what you want to walk away with here. We're in this together, okay? Don't worry about what you don't know. We're here to help, okay? Don't be overwhelmed. You have questions, ask. No, you're not going to be in a position where you have to answer every question the investor has about funding. That's what a broker does. You're just trying to understand if they qualify, right? If it makes sense. Okay, and we take it from there. You just simply leverage the broker, leverage Ion. We take over. Okay, rethink your strategy and approach your investor network with a new strategy in mind. There's a typo there. Leverage your team. Right, we're a part of your team. Okay, think differently. Help your team members think differently. Think differently about your pitch, your value. It's going to help you in leveraging your deals, the value you bring to the table for your clients, right? So following up has never been more important, right? Now you have more than one reason to follow up with your investor network. Remind them of your value. Remind them of what you can do for them beyond just the one property that you're trying to sell, okay? There's more that you bring to the table now, okay? Remind them of that, and it keeps that conversation healthy, topical for the investor beyond just your property, right? They're always going to need funding. They're always looking to perhaps get a better rate or whatever it is, or approval. Perhaps they like the line of credit so they don't have to deal with the lender so much. They can just keep borrowing and it replenishes and it makes sense. Maybe they need a line of credit. That's additional value and a way for you to continue talking to them until you come up with your next deal. You know, it keeps your sphere of influence, your network healthy. And of course, thank you. We take this opportunity seriously. We appreciate your confidence in us. We're very excited to be partnering up here, and we know that we're going to be able to achieve results together. And so we're very much excited about that opportunity. Anyway, that's going to do it for this this presentation. Thank you so much. I'll catch you in the next video.